Port Dundas is a terminus along the Forth and Clyde Canal in Glasgow. The Forth and Clyde Canal opened in 1790. It crossed central Scotland from the mouth of the Clyde to the Firth of Forth. The 35-mile-long canal allowed navigation from Glasgow to Edinburgh for the first time ever. It ran from the River Clyde in Bowling to the River Carron in Grangemouth. One of its major basins was Port Dundas in Glasgow. Port Dundas became a powerful centre of trade, commerce and industry in the city. It even outstripped other harbours on the River Clyde at its height. So this is the story of Port Dundas in Glasgow. Port Dundas was built between 1786 and 1790 on a site called 100 Acre Hill. It connected the Forth and Clyde Canal to the Monklands Canal. The port is located just north of the M8 motorway going through Glasgow city centre. It was named after Sir Lawrence Dundas, one of the major financiers behind the Forth and Clyde Canal Company. Sir Dundas made his fortunes supplying goods to the British Army as Commissary General. He supplied goods to the war effort against the Jacobites in Scotland and for the 7 Years' War in Flanders from 1756 to 1763. Following this, he moved into banking and property development. He developed the town of Grangemouth in 1777, which is at the eastern side of the canal, and ran through his estate at Kershouse near Falkirk. Sir Lawrence Dundas had various property and business interests around Scotland and the whole of the UK. Port Dundas was thus named after this business titan. Port Dundas became very popular with the shipping industry. Many found it more profitable to drop off goods at Bowling at the mouth of the River Clyde instead of travel all the way up to Glasgow. Ports like Broomielaw and Glasgow Harbour became less popular with importers and exporters. This is even after the Clyde Navigation Trust spent decades and invested considerable sums deepening and clearing the River Clyde for this very purpose. In the 1800s, Port Dundas became a hub of industry. Power stations, engineering works, glass works, iron foundries, chemical works, granaries, textile mills, and much more sprang up all around it. In 1859, a 138-metre high or 454 feet high brick tower was built for F. Townsend. At the time, it was the highest chimney in the world. At its base, its diameter spanned 9.8 metres or 32 feet. The Pinxton Power Station was built in 1901 at Port Dundas. It generated electricity to run the Glasgow Corporation tramways network. The network was electrified in 1901 for the opening of the International Exhibition at Kelvingrove Park. In 1956, a very large cooling tower was added, and it was the largest in Europe at the time. The power plant was decommissioned in the 1960s after being passed to the South of Scotland Electricity Board in 1958. In the 1980s, the plant was demolished. The hulking cooling tower, which could be seen all across Glasgow, was to be no more. A very prominent building, which the area is still known for, is at Speirs Wharf. It was originally the offices of the Forth and Clyde Navigation Company, as well as the City of Glasgow grain mills and stores of John Curry & Co. The iconic building was constructed in 1851 by Speirs Wharf, which is today a beautiful cobbled canal-side residential area. It was converted in 1989 into 150 flats, with a leisure centre and 19 commercial units below. Like all industry and old world commerce in Glasgow, it was doomed to fall into decline. It was less and less profitable to ship goods and passengers along the canal as time went on. This, along with industry declining in the 20th century and new ideas of transport, like motorways, spelt doom for the canal. In 1952, the Monkland Canal was closed at the time the M8 motorway was being planned. Rather than build a crossing, they converted Monkland Canal into culverts which run beneath the new motorway. The M8 motorway was originally called the Monkland Motorway. The culvert connecting to Port Dundas remained the main source of water for the Forth and Clyde Canal. And in 1963, the Forth and Clyde Canal was also shut to traffic. The once bustling former Imperial harbour, a centre of powerful industrial interests, was almost abandoned. Port Dundas grain distillery remained on the site and produced 39 million litres of spirits every year. Up until fairly recently, the site produced grain whisky used in Johnnie Walker, J&B Black and White, VAT 69 and White Horse. All were brands of blended whisky owned by Diageo. But in 2010, Diageo, however you pronounce it, announced the closure of the site. But Port Dundas was long dead before the drinks company moved out. The site and the canals turned into a derelict, disused graveyard of once great times. But the canals were not doomed forever. Since 2001, there has been an £83 million package of regeneration works along the Forth and Clyde Canal. Development has taken place to rebuild and improve the canals. This includes walkways, crossings, reconnecting the canals and more, such as huge projects like the Falkirk Wheel. Now people can enjoy the architecture and ingenuity of Port Dundas and the Forth and Clyde Canal for years to come. It remains a functioning canal for leisurely and civilian purposes. Property developers have bought and built alongside it, and it remains a fine tourist attraction. Speirs Wharf remains an outstanding beauty spot, along with the renovated former offices of the canal company. It retains all the character, including cobblestones and the mooring spots for canal boats. It makes an excellent day out, if you're in Glasgow, to walk from Port Dundas along the Forth and Clyde Canal. Port Dundas was an essential part of the British Empire's beating heart of industry. The Clydeside was considered the engine room of the British Empire. But the empire was not destined to last forever. The empire broke apart, and new technologies came to the fore. Port Dundas, a canal terminus, was becoming obsolete. With improvements to railways and motorways being built, there was little profit in the canal anymore. The Forth and Clyde Canal, much like the River Clyde, was becoming a stagnant moat. Thankfully, we do still have the canal due to regeneration, and there is amazing work being done now on the banks of the River Clyde. But the fate of Port Dundas is still a sad one, much like all the former industrial heartlands of the United Kingdom. They remain shadows of their former selves and represent a bygone era. It was an era of prosperity, purpose, expansion and confidence. And it's a stark contrast to the modern era. So there we are, that was my wee history of Port Dundas. I hope you enjoyed it. I like doing these. This is actually the second one I've done for the channel. I've been meaning since the last one to do another one at some point soon, but now is the time. I got some good comments in that one, provoked a bit of discussion as well. But yeah, Port Dundas is a really interesting wee place because no one really knows much about it. If you wouldn't really know anything about it unless you went out your way to learn about it. But it was actually a really major, critical part of Glasgow's commercial, industrious past that people do tend to know about, but they don't know about Port Dundas, and how it kind of just wiped out. Didn't wipe out, but it stole a lot of the success that the Broomielaw and Glasgow Harbour and other harbours downstream in the Clyde were meant to have. I mean, they spent a long enough time deepening the Clyde, the merchants did, and the Clyde navigation folks, but only for it to be kind of made redundant. But the deepening of the Clyde was of course a huge part in the success of the shipbuilding industry, not to be forgotten. And our Sir Lawrence Dundas looks like an interesting person too. He actually had his fingers in many pies. He actually owned that property which RBS is in the new town of Edinburgh. You've probably seen it if you're an RBS customer and you've been to the bank in Edinburgh. So another wee interesting thing there. But yeah, I love doing these videos, and I think if there's any mistakes, any corrections, something I've not made clear, just please say so. I think I do these videos to also learn about things. I knew a little bit about Port Dundas from what I'd read in a book, but I didn't know as much as I now know, because you basically have to do all the research and string it together into a kind of short article of only about 1,000 words or so. condense a lot of information, and then record it all, do multiple takes, then edit it all together. So you've heard this information about a million times by the end, so it's a good way to memorise facts. In case you're bored of traditional studying, this is a good way to do it. I'm not a student or anything, but I am a kind of eternal student of history to learn about it. And so yeah, thank you so much. And you should probably go to Speirs Wharf as well. Great place up there. And after Speirs Wharf, you can go to this bar. It's called like Loch. Then it's got the number of which loch it's next to on the canal. But it's in Annie's Land. If you just go to Annie's Land, then go to the canal, you'll see it. It's a beautiful bar right on the canal side. So it's an unknown beauty spot, I think. Loads of people don't know it exists, the whole canal stuff. So highly recommend going. Highly recommend it. Great for bikes, great for dog walking, great for canoeing as well. So yeah, check it out and leave some comments, subscribe, thumbs up, etc., etc. Let's get some discussion going in the comments. And thank you for listening if you got this far.